We are plunging through a canopy of dense, snow-covered pine trees. The wind howls, a piercing shriek that drowns out everything else. Suddenly, the white snow below is stained with a striking, violent crimson. A frozen helmet lies half buried in the frost. When you hear the name Bastogne, this is the image that flashes into your mind. The white hell of 1944, the screaming eagles, the ultimate winter siege. But how did a tiny, obscure dot, hidden deep within one of Europe's most impenetrable forests, become the fulcrum? Today, we trace the history of Bastogne. We witness its birth from Celtic woods, its rise as a medieval fortress, and its baptism by fire. This is a story of geographical destiny. We step back over 2,000 years. The wind carries the rustle of untouched ancient leaves, not artillery. This is the Ardennes. The Romans called it Arduena Silva, a vast ocean of towering oaks, steep ravines, and wild boars. For Celtic tribes, the forest was both protector and prison, a harsh, unforgiving place where survival was a daily battle. We watch as Roman legions, under Julius Caesar, march through these very woods in the 1st century BC. They carve the first rudimentary roads through dirt and rock, connecting Trier to the lands of the Belgi. Bastogne does not yet have a name, but its destiny is written. It sits on a pathway, and pathways bring people. Centuries bleed into one another. The Roman Empire collapses, leaving the forest to reclaim its roads. The Dark Ages cast a long shadow. But then, everything changes. The year is 1332. The isolated woods are alive with striking hammers and clinking coins. John the Blind, King of Bohemia, recognizes this central crossroads. He grants Bastogne an official charter of emancipation. Overnight, the scattered agricultural settlement is transformed into a thriving market town. We walk through the newly established market square. It is a vibrant, muddy, chaotic collision of worlds. Wealthy Flemish merchants trade fine wool for raw timber. Local farmers herd cattle through the narrow streets. The scent of roasted meats and raw leather fills the air. Bastogne is a vital, beating economic heart. But this newfound wealth brings an undeniable, terrifying reality. To be rich in the medieval world is to be a target. We watch as the townsfolk, fueled by a booming agricultural economy, begin to haul massive blocks of grey stone. They are building walls. By the 14th century, Bastogne is encircled by heavy fortifications, punctuated by imposing gates. Bastogne is now a fortress. The people feel secure behind their high stone walls, believing they have conquered the wild nature. They are a prosperous island of trade in a sea of green timber. For a time, the wealth flows and the fortifications hold. The citizens look up at their stone walls and believe they are untouchable. But geographical destiny is a double-edged sword. The very roads that brought them silver will soon bring destructive forces. The walls they built to protect their market will mean nothing against the terrifying industrial machinations of centuries to come. The dark woods are waiting, and the quiet peace of the market town is about to be violently interrupted. It is the late 17th century, and the illusion of safety shatters. The armies of French King Louis XIV sweep through the Ardennes, bringing the devastating reality of modern warfare. Gunpowder and heavy artillery have rendered medieval stone obsolete. We watch as the imposing walls of Bastogne are systematically dismantled. The town is forcibly laid bare. It is no longer an untouchable fortress. It is a completely open, vulnerable crossroads. This is a profound psychological blow. For centuries, the people of Bastogne looked inward for protection. Now they are forced to look outward, exposed to the chaotic currents of European empires. Decades turn into centuries, and the quiet agricultural town slowly reinvents itself. The 19th century arrives, accompanied by the hiss of steam, the smell of coal, and the birth of an independent Belgium. A sweeping industrial transformation takes hold. Laborers cut wide, modern macadam roads through the dense pine forests. If you look at a map from this era, a startling pattern emerges. 7 major paved highways are carved into the landscape, converging perfectly at the central market square of Bastogne. Soon after, the railways arrive, cementing the town's status as a premier transit hub. The strategy works flawlessly. Wealth comes flooding back. Trains loaded with rich Ardennes timber, livestock, and famous local hams steam out into the capitals of Europe. Bastogne becomes a bustling, prosperous epicenter of rural trade. The merchants are wealthy, the streets are paved, and progress seems unstoppable. But this brilliant infrastructure masks a terrifying, unintended consequence. The Ardennes forest is a geographical nightmare. It is a labyrinth of steep ravines, thick timber, and winding rivers, naturally impassable for large mechanized armies. If an invading force wishes to push quickly through this dense woodland, they cannot go around. They must use the paved roads. And because all those roads meet at a single point, whoever controls Bastogne controls the entire region. By engineering their own economic prosperity, the citizens have unwittingly engineered a massive, inescapable funnel. They have painted a geopolitical bullseye directly onto their own homes. Then everything changes. It is August 1914. The idyllic summer air is violently ripped apart by the outbreak of the Great War. The German Empire executes the Schlieffen Plan, launching a colossal right hook through neutral Belgium. We stand in the cobblestone streets of Bastogne and watch in stunned silence as an endless, terrifying column of German infantry marches straight through the town center. There is no glorious medieval defense. The open city is swallowed whole in a matter of hours. For 4 grueling years, the citizens endure a suffocating military occupation. Wealth vanishes, replaced by forced labor, military requisitions, and the constant gnawing ache of hunger. The vibrant market hub is transformed into a bleak logistical artery for the German war machine. It is Bastogne's first true taste of global mechanized conflict, and it leaves a deep communal scar. When the armistice is finally signed in 1918, the town exhales. The Roaring Twenties and the early 30s bring a fragile, uneasy peace back to the crossroads. We watch the farmers slowly return to their fields, and the merchants cautiously reopen their stalls. The trains run again, but the psychological innocence is gone forever. The people now understand the deadly trap of their own geography. And as the 1930s draw to a close, a new, far darker shadow begins to creep over the eastern pine trees. Across the border, a highly mechanized, ruthless new German army is revving its engines, and the peaceful crossroads of Bastogne is about to become the most important, heavily contested piece of real estate on the planet. It is December 1944. The world is covered in a deceptive, quiet blanket of snow. In the streets of Bastogne, the mood is almost celebratory. The Allied armies have swept across France and Belgium, driving the German occupiers back toward their own borders. To the American GIs stationed here, exhausted men sent to this quiet ghost front to recover, the war feels like it is finally winding down. We watch children tentatively approach towering American soldiers, trading shy smiles for rations of chocolate and chewing gum. The local merchants have brought out whatever meager goods they have left to celebrate their liberators. The citizens look at the falling snow and believe they have survived the worst of the 20th century. They believe the storm has passed, but they are completely, terrifyingly wrong. Allied High Command makes a monumental, fatal assumption. They look at the dense, snow-choked pines of the Ardennes and declare the forest impenetrable. No army, they reason, could possibly launch a major mechanized offensive through these steep ravines in the dead of winter. It is an oversight of staggering arrogance that will cost thousands of lives. Because deep in the freezing fog, hidden beneath the dense canopy of those very same ancient Celtic woods, Adolf Hitler has secretly amassed a staggering force. 200,000 German soldiers and over 1,000 panzers are waiting in absolute radio-silent darkness. This is Unternehmen Wacht am Rhein, Operation Watch on the Rhine. It is Hitler's desperate all-or-nothing final gamble to smash through the forest, capture the port of Antwerp, and split the Allied armies in half. Then everything changes. It is 5:30 in the morning on December 16th. The freezing fog is suddenly ripped apart by an apocalyptic roar. A massive artillery barrage lights up the eastern horizon like a false, terrifying dawn. The earth violently shudders. We see utterly stunned, freezing American sentries staring into the whiteout conditions as thousands of German infantrymen emerge like phantoms from the snow. The quiet ghost front has just become the deadliest place on planet Earth. Total chaos ensues. The thin, overstretched American lines shatter under the immense crushing weight of the sudden blitzkrieg. Panic sweeps through the frozen forests. German Tiger and Panther tanks smash through the timber, racing frantically toward the Meuse River. But the thick woods and deep snow dictate their path. Just as the history of Bastogne foretold centuries ago, the invaders cannot go around. The labyrinth of the Ardennes funnels the entire German war machine directly toward the 7 paved roads of the Bastogne crossroads. Whoever controls that central market square controls the momentum of the entire offensive. The frantic race for Bastogne begins. Back in the town, the civilian tranquility evaporates into pure terror. We watch families who just days ago were celebrating liberation, now frantically packing wooden carts in the freezing cold. But it is too late. The roads out are rapidly clogging with retreating, bloodied troops and abandoned equipment. The temperature plummets. The snow begins to fall heavier, grounding all Allied aircraft and blinding their aerial observers. The German panzer divisions are slicing through the surrounding villages like a scythe, methodically cutting off every single escape route. In a desperate response, the Allied command issues an emergency order. Hundreds of miles away, the men of the US 101st Airborne Division, the legendary Screaming Eagles, are thrown into open-air canvas trucks. They have no winter clothing. They lack proper ammunition. Many do not even have winter boots. They are driven straight into the freezing, sleet-filled darkness, racing the German tanks to the crossroads. They arrive just as the steel jaws of the German army begin to snap shut. We see the airborne infantry hastily digging foxholes into the frozen, unyielding dirt around the perimeter of the town, hacking at the ice with their entrenching tools. Behind them, inside the dark, freezing cellars of Bastogne, thousands of terrified civilians huddle together, listening to the deafening mechanical roar of the approaching panzers. The roads have brought the world to their doorstep once again, but this time it is bringing absolute annihilation. By December 20th, the last road out is severed. The encirclement is complete. Bastogne is entirely cut off from the rest of the world, trapped in a white, freezing hell. The trap is sprung. Bastogne is no longer a town. It is a frozen island completely surrounded by a raging ocean of German armor. The temperature plummets to a staggering sub-zero deep freeze, marking the coldest European winter in half a century. American paratroopers, shivering in thin summer canvas, desperately wrap their feet in burlap sacks and torn curtains to stave off frostbite. The ground is frozen solid like cast iron, rendering their entrenching tools useless. They are outnumbered 5-1. Above them, the skies remain choked with a thick, impenetrable grey fog, completely grounding the Allied Air Force. There will be no aerial resupply. There will be no rescue. Inside the town, a shocking, catastrophic reality sets in. The 101st Airborne's medical company was ambushed and captured. Bastogne is left with virtually no surgeons, no surgical equipment, and no penicillin. We step inside the cavernous, freezing sanctuary of the Church of St. Peter. It is a scene of unimaginable suffering. Hundreds of wounded, bleeding young men are laid shoulder to shoulder on the freezing stone floor. There is no morphine to dull their screams. Army medics are forced to use locally scavenged cognac to sterilize wounds and numb amputations. The modern, wealthy market town has been violently reduced to a primitive struggle for survival. Beneath the crumbling streets, over 3,000 Belgian civilians are huddled in dark, freezing cellars. The wealth of the 20th century has vanished, replaced by the terrifying vibrations of exploding artillery. These citizens face an agonizing, profound moral dilemma. They know that if the Americans surrender, the bombardment will stop. They could step out of the dark and guarantee the survival of their starving children. But instead, they choose their principles over capitulation. We watch as local women refuse to hide. Renée Lemaire and Augusta Chiwi voluntarily leave the safety of the underground vaults. They step into the bloody, freezing makeshift hospitals. They tear up their own family linens to make bandages. They spoon warm soup into the mouths of dying American farm boys. They choose to share the horrific fate of the defenders, binding the civilian identity of Bastogne to the American soldiers in a pact of shared sacrifice. But bravery cannot stop artillery shells. The siege tightens mercilessly. German guns pound the perimeter day and night, methodically turning the historic town center into a landscape of shattered brick and splintered timber. Ammunition levels reach a critical, terrifying low. American artillery crews are placed on a strict ration of just 10 rounds per gun. Once they fire those 10 shells, they must sit in silence as German panzers roll ever closer to their shallow foxholes. The screaming eagles are literally running out of bullets. Then everything changes. The psychological warfare begins. It is the freezing, fog-choked morning of December 22nd. A tense silence falls over a sector of the southern perimeter. 4 German soldiers emerge from the white mist. They are carrying a large white flag of truce. They bring with them a formal typed ultimatum from the German commander. The message is absolute and terrifying. Bastogne is entirely surrounded by heavy artillery and mechanized divisions. The Americans are offered one final chance: surrender the town and all its defenders within 2 hours. Or the German artillery will obliterate Bastogne, completely annihilating both the Allied soldiers and the civilian population trapped inside. The clock starts ticking. The frozen, bleeding defenders look down at their empty ammunition pouches, and then back at the burning, shattered ruins of the town they are sworn to protect. The jaws of the trap are closing for the final kill. The typed ultimatum travels down into the freezing, dimly lit underground bunker of the Heinz barracks. We watch as Acting Commander Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe reads the German demand. He is exhausted, surrounded by sleep-deprived staff officers. The tactical situation is hopeless. To surrender is to survive. To fight on is absolute suicide. McAuliffe drops the paper. His response is spontaneous. Nuts. But how do you formalize that in an official military document? Colonel Harry Kinnard suggests keeping it exactly as it is. It is the perfect, defiant embodiment of the airborne spirit. We see the official reply handed back to the blindfolded German officers standing in the snow. The German officers are completely bewildered. They ask if it is an affirmative or a negative. An American officer translates, "In plain English, go to hell." That one word echoes through the frozen foxholes like a psychological earthquake. It electrifies the shivering, bleeding paratroopers. It tells them that they are not victims trapped in a snare. They are the anvil upon which the German offensive will be broken. But the German High Command does not find it amusing. They unleash a furious, devastating retribution. The artillery bombardment reaches a deafening, terrifying crescendo. We watch the horror of Christmas Eve unfold. The German Luftwaffe takes to the night sky, dropping high explosives directly onto the historic center of Bastogne. A direct hit obliterates the makeshift hospital where local nurse Renée Lemaire has been tirelessly tending to the wounded. The building collapses in a massive fireball. Renée dies in the rubble alongside the American soldiers she tried to save. Her body later pulled from the flaming wreckage. It is a devastating, deeply emotional cost to the town's defiance. Principles have been chosen over survival, and the blood of the citizens is now permanently mixed with the blood of their defenders. Then, everything changes. The grim Christmas day passes, but on December 26th, the sky performs an absolute miracle. The dense, suffocating grey fog that has smothered the Ardennes for weeks suddenly cracks open. A brilliant, piercing blue winter sky is revealed. The air pressure shifts. Suddenly, a new roar fills the heavens. It is not the terrifying whistle of incoming artillery, but the heavy, rhythmic drone of hundreds of Allied C-47 transport planes. We look up alongside the weeping defenders as the sky fills with hundreds of brilliant red, yellow, and blue parachutes. They are dropping tons of desperately needed ammunition, surgical supplies, and K-rations directly into the snowy perimeter. The ground is literally raining salvation. Simultaneously, a different, heavier rumble shakes the earth to the south. In one of the greatest logistical miracles in military history, General George S. Patton has pivoted his entire Third Army 90 degrees. They have driven relentlessly through a blizzard, marching day and night to reach the crossroads. On the afternoon of December 26th, the Sherman tanks of the 4th Armored Division violently smash into the German siege lines. We watch as the lead tank punches through the southern perimeter, making physical contact with the soot-stained, freezing paratroopers. The siege is broken. The invincible German encirclement has been pierced. Over the coming weeks, the Allied forces will slowly push the German war machine back into the dense pine forests, systematically dismantling Hitler's final great gamble. Bastogne has survived the White Hell, the crossroads held. But as the smoke clears and the deafening silence finally returns to the Ardennes, the surviving soldiers and civilians look around at the shattered, smoking ruins of their once wealthy market town. The medieval walls are gone. The modern railway is twisted iron. The historic homes are nothing but blackened craters. Bastogne is saved, but its physical history has been completely erased. A dark, terrifying realization sets in. How can a city completely reduced to ash ever find its soul again? The spring of 1945 finally arrives. The thick, bloody snows of the Ardennes melt away, revealing a landscape of absolute, unimaginable devastation. We walk through the center of Bastogne, but there is almost nothing left to recognize. Over 80% of the town has been reduced to blackened rubble. The ancient medieval heritage, the vibrant market squares, the wealthy merchant homes, all of it has been completely erased by the terrifying machinery of modern war. The surviving civilians emerge from their freezing subterranean cellars into the pale sunlight. They look out over a jagged wasteland of shattered bricks and twisted steel. The geographical curse of the crossroads has exacted its ultimate, horrific price. But in this moment of utter desolation, the people of Bastogne make a profound, defining choice. They do not abandon the cursed roads. They do not retreat into the dark, protective Celtic woods. Instead, they begin to rebuild. But as the mortar dries and the new brick walls rise, a startling transformation occurs. Bastogne does not simply reconstruct its pre-war agricultural economy. It fundamentally, permanently alters its entire civic soul. Then everything changes. It is 1950. Just 5 years after the end of the Second World War. We stand on a quiet hill just outside the newly rebuilt town center, staring up at a colossal, unexpected structure rising from the Belgian soil. This is the Madison Memorial. In a stunning architectural tribute, the massive stone monument is not shaped like a traditional European obelisk or arch. It is built in the exact shape of a five-pointed American star. Chiseled into its towering pillars are the names of all the American states and the badges of the battalions that bled in the snow. It is a staggering, unexpected fact. A piece of sovereign European land has been permanently transformed into a sacred temple of American gratitude. This gratitude rewrites the town's destiny. Decades pass, and the physical scars of the battlefield fade into green, rolling hills, but the memory refuses to die. We walk through the streets of Bastogne today, and the modern identity is impossible to ignore. The main square is proudly named Place General McAuliffe. A preserved Sherman tank sits anchored at the exact spot where the historic roads converge. Every December, the town does not mourn in silent grief. It erupts in a massive, vibrant celebration of survival known as the Nuts Weekend. We watch joyful crowds gather as the mayor stands on a balcony, literally throwing handfuls of walnuts into the cheering masses, a physical, triumphant echo of the famous one-word reply. The deepest trauma of the siege has been alchemized into a global symbol of liberty. Bastogne has come full circle. It began as a nameless, muddy track carved by Roman sandals through the dark, forbidding Ardennes silver. It rose into a wealthy, heavily fortified medieval market, only to have its stone walls torn down by the brutal evolution of empires. Its brilliant, star-shaped highway network engineered its great prosperity, but also doomed it to become the deadliest funnel of the Second World War. The town was forced to look absolute annihilation in the face, caught in a freezing white hell between survival and surrender. Yet because a handful of shivering paratroopers and defiant civilians chose principles over capitulation, the curse of the crossroads was finally broken. The roads of Bastogne no longer funnel conquering armies into the heart of Europe. Today, they bring millions of pilgrims, historians, and descendants of veterans from across the globe, all traveling to the center of the Ardennes to stand in the quiet snow and remember the ultimate cost of freedom. If you were captivated by this incredible journey through the ashes and triumphs of Bastogne, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more epic historical documentaries. What city's entire history should we uncover next? Let me know down in the comments below.